Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the GSM's Pride Spotlight. I have my returning guest, Bryan the finance manager.
Hi guys.
Welcome back, Bryan.
Good to see you.
So really, I just wanted to do a bit of a catch up because obviously we learned a bit about your past. Really catch up with what's been going on. You and I actually went down to Daytona Beach. We'll talk a little bit about Brown and Brown because we've done a lot of stuff on that.
Right.
So that's been a big impact. But since we last spoke, which was a while, anything new in your life that's gone on?
Let's see. So, not a lot, to be honest with you. Just trying to push forward here at the dealership and keep things grinding.
Yeah.
No, not too much other than on the personal side. Other than, well, finally taking after you. You'll be proud of me. I've been hitting the gym the last week and a half, but I haven't said anything because I don't want to toot my own horn before anything actually happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say happens,
so there's no results yet, but.
I like how I watched you sit there thinking about that.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything at first because the scale's not showing that anything is happening, but it feels like it might be.
Here's the thing. One thing I'll tell you, and everyone's probably looking at me going, "He ain't lost anyway." But it takes a little bit, but once you break the ice and start heading down, you head down pretty fast.
And I usually lose pretty quick, So I mean, actually, before you met me, so 6 years ago, something like that, I was 100 pounds heavier than this and lost all of that 5-6 years ago. So just a little bit before I started.
I remember you talking about that. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
I don't mind,
So what was it that got you up there in that weight?
So I was on a bunch of different medications. Turned out I didn't need a lot of them, but I had a doctor because I had some issues with depression and anxiety.
Prescription
yeah. And he put me on so much medicine that I gained all that weight. It was tough to even be functional. And then I went to a different doctor over at SLU, and he didn't believe how much medicine I was on. I had to get him the scripts from, for Walgreens and show him, and he was like, "Oh my God, you can't do that," So lost 100 pounds, and I don't know, almost a year and a half, I guess. So I kind of lost it healthy.
It's surprising how medication can make your weight fluctuate like that.
Really? So, and I've never been overweight my entire life. I was always fit before that, and so that does not feel like my normal,
you did a lot of
natural.
And stuff, right?
Yeah, I've always done that. Always lifted weights, and always kind of prided myself on being fit. But it's funny because now my mind knows how to do certain things, but my body can't execute it. So my mind's spinning whatever kick, but my body can't do any of that right now.
Trust me, I play soccer every Saturday, and there's things that I still try to do. My mind is going, "Oh, you could do that," and then I physically try, and my legs don't do what I want to do.
Well, fortunately for me, I have a new instructor now who's very much old school Chinese guy. He looks like he walked out of like that movie Kung Fu a little bit. He's from there and everything, and he's not letting me do anything of any consequence yet. First thing he's like, "Well, you don't know how to breathe properly, so you can't do anything until you learn how to breathe." So he's been teaching me all these breathing exercises, which does really help, even on the job, turns out. And after that, he's like, "Well, it's gonna be a long time before you learn to throw, do any kicks or punches." He said, "Because you don't know how to sit or stand." So he's having me do these, horse stances where you're in these different positions for like 30 minutes or something. And after that, I have to learn to walk. So this guy's gonna really, which is fine with me because I need the conditioning anyway before I start doing any of that stuff.
Well, that's it's funny you say that. Like breathing in, I guess, athletics as a whole, it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily realize is so impactful when you're working out.
Oh, definitely. I do from lifting weights, kind of a key thing is on that exhale, you can, push your heavier weight if you're benching. So, breathe in and then, you can push that out. But just being calm and relaxed and focused and stuff like that for any kind of a sport, or on the job or anything else you're doing, breathing makes all the difference in the world.
So obviously, I ride my Peloton a lot. Some of the things they teach you on there is breathing. And they until you actually do it, you don't realize, but they actually say, if you've got like a tension in your shoulder or in your back, and they say breathe into your tension.
Yeah, right.
And at first when they say that, you're like, what in the world are you talking about? How do you do that? But once you actually condition your mind to actually concentrate on that area when you do breathe in, it's surprising how you go, wow, that actually worked.
It's funny you say that because that's the exact wording that he used, but I've never heard anybody say that before. He's like, if you're stressed out, if you have a problem, if it's a tough day, it's like you have to breathe into that the same way you do something physically. It's like a lot of people say, I'm going to go home and drink about it. He said, just sit there and breathe about it. He says, as soon as you start breathing, it'll get better. Which sounds ridiculous, but it actually does work.
Yeah, I thought the very same when the Peloton instructors used to say it. They say, well, if you've got a tight shoulder, breathe into that area. I'm like, what does that even mean? And then when you actually try and engage your brain to do it, you're like, oh, surprising that pain just did go away.
Exactly. You know, and I've had some pretty severe shoulder pain for the last year, and I really think a lot of it is not so much an injury because it gets better with use, not worse. You know, and I haven't seen a doctor, which I probably should, but you know, the interesting thing is focusing more on the breathing and all that kind of stuff, 100%, you know, like it is a lot of intense pain a lot of the times, but if I focus on that breathing and everything, it gets way better, loosens it up, and then I can actually move it and start rehabbing it. So I'm going to try my best until I have to go see a doctor.
And I have no problems talking about this.
Yeah.
So when COVID started, I went on sertraline, which is for anxiety and I guess depression, but I'm on such a low dose. It's more to control my anxiety when I get overwhelmed with stuff more than anything. I don't feel like I'm a depressed state person. I'm sure you can all tell that. But I take this, and it took a while, but a lot of the things that my doctor prescribed was doing meditation and breathing.
Right.
Because surprisingly, when you start learning how to breathe, because I don't know if you know this about taking 2 inhalations when you breathe.
I don't.
So you take it one in, and then you stop, like you're going to breathe out, but then you take another one in.
Oh, gotcha. And make that a deeper.
Yeah, so you basically train your lungs to half fill and then fill again.
Gotcha.
And then breathe.
And that must be that advanced breathing technique.
It kind of slows like your brain function down a little bit. It's kind of strange, but I learned that, and that does words are good in some way.
Well, and that's the kind of stuff that's helpful for me.
When I get mad up there, I walk away.
I noticed. Well, that's what you've been telling me for a long time is the whole slow down to speed up thing, which for me is everything because, you know, rushing around like a crazy maniac is not necessarily being productive, you know?
And it adds to the stress. It really does.
It does.
Hyperactive you get, that's what your stress feeds on.
Sure. And then you're making, you know, more mistakes just because I'm, you know, stressed and frantic or whatever, as opposed to slowing down, breathing into it, and just, you know, methodically getting it done is so much more efficient. Yeah. But I have to fight the natural inclination of my brain, you know? So it's not a habit yet.
Fight the fire back.
Seriously, yeah.
So talking about the fire, we went down to Daytona Beach and did how's that whole training transformed the way you do things? Has it transformed the way you do things? What do you gain out of doing all that?
A lot. I mean, it has. On one end, it really freed me up to that. The way that they train us to be more consultative instead of, you know, trying to sell folks things or trying to talk them into something. Just has kind of been what I wanted to do anyway and what I was trying to do, but it really wasn't the training that I had previously, you know. So it kind of freed me up to know that, hey, it's okay to have that kind of approach and try to get better at it and grow with that. So transform, yeah, in a sense, because I finally feel like, since that's the training, you know, it's fine to just embrace it and roll with it. So I like it. Customers like it. I've noticed I'm a lot more relaxed. You know, when I don't feel pressure about anything I need to do on my end of the job, the customers are more relaxed. Plus, I can, you know, not focus on anything other than actually asking all the right questions to make sure I'm helping them with whatever needs they have. So, I mean, it's a win for me and it's a win for the customers. And I mean, I personally love it. It's not 100% yet because I've been doing it the other way for a really long time. So it's not a habit per se that's just going to come naturally, but I think it's getting there. So.
And do you feel like your numbers have improved since you started doing that?
Yeah, in certain areas. In some ways, they seem to fluctuate a little bit as I try out different things. So I think they're roughly the same-ish, except for a couple of them, like service contracts, I think tend to be a little bit higher. But a lot of it, I think, is just getting used to different verbiage and throwing out the old stuff that tends to come naturally, because you kind of shoot yourself in the foot if all of a sudden you revert back to something that was a reflex and then you're not doing it the way that we're supposed to, you know. So it's a learning curve.
Breathe. That's what you should do. You should turn your lights off when you have a customer in.
Yeah, I should.
And say, okay, before we start, we're going to do some breathing exercises. So
that would help me
clear our mind
and them,
and it'll help me be able to consult you better.
It's not a bad idea.
Or just take a breath.
You get some incense going on, you know. Do the Mr. Miyagi thing.
Yeah.
So that's right. But no, the training's really great.
Then what you should do is when they don't buy anything, you get up and
that's right. If do right, no can defend against, I think he said. So yeah, but it's been really good. You know, Grant, our other finance guy, he didn't have a lot of experience before that, so he doesn't have a lot of bad habits to unlearn. So for him, I think he took off great out of the gate, and he's just continuing to improve.
Let's move on to something else. But what's, obviously we've seen the store grow in so many different ways, and as a manager, how do you feel the store is as a whole right now?
Well, right now I feel like it's more gelled than it's ever been. I think the current team that we have is the right one. We've got salespeople that are, been here a little while, except for we have that one new guy, of course, but I think the management, team as well is really starting to work better together too. Steve obviously retired recently, so having him, physically out of the building, I think has helped Jeff and Corey start to step more into that role without worrying about, is he really somebody that people are just going to go to anyway? So I think the store's in a really, really good place. We just, we need a couple more bodies for salespeople, I think, but I think we're humming along pretty well. Yeah.
Good. Well, that's all I got for you. I just wanted to catch up with you and see how, and we had a nice conversation about breathing.
That's right.
Well, as always over at Fusz Ford, we can replace the car, not the customer, and I'll see you all next week.